I need a haircut. Much better.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
So the other night, I couldn't sleep, right? My in-laws are coming into town, and so I knew I need to get a lot of homework done, and so I did that. I stayed up pretty late. But after that was done, I still couldn't sleep. My mind has been on this Breonna Taylor case, and unless you've been living under a rock for the last few months, you've probably heard about it. Well, I guess they came to a decision in the case, or I guess a lack thereof, and it seems that the officers basically are like getting a slap on the wrist. Nothing really is happening to them. And as I was up, I just could not stop thinking about this whole case and just the ramifications it has. The reason this has been bugging me is because it's just not right. You know what I mean? It's absolutely not right, and I don't know. It kept me up. To be honest, I filmed already a vlog talking about this. As I couldn't sleep, I said, well, I might as well say something. And after talking to some other people and looking back on it, well, mind you, I had been up all night. Like, I think I started recording that video at like 7 something in the morning. And I mean, well, just look at it. Yeah, that dude needed a nap. All right. Thank you. Neck hurts again. And so, a lot of people have already made a bunch of videos and Facebook posts and Instagram things just about the political state of the world as it is right now, maybe more the United States. And I don't know, I'm just not that guy who likes to be controversial. And because of that, I stay out of things a lot. But this thing with Breonna Taylor really has me thinking. It doesn't seem that this is something that needs to be controversial. I mean, this isn't a matter of politics, really. This is more of an issue of right and wrong. And, you know, I start to try to think, well, how did we get to this point? How has it seemed that in the last few years we've just become increasingly politically polarized and suspicious of everyone we come in contact with, and something like supporting or disagreeing with the decision of the police officers and Breonna Taylor is seen as a political statement? I think we have to start with our president, right? Donald Trump. Super controversial guy. You either love him or you hate him. I don't really know if there's an in-between. Here's my biggest issue with Donald Trump. To tell you, I guess I'll just tell you a story, because that's how I do things. My issue with Donald Trump is this. Let's think about back in Charlottesville, right? Where there was, I guess, protesting and rioting and whatever. And the Ku Klux Klan decided to show up, and so did the neo-Nazis. I'm pretty sure after World War II, we can say pretty universally that Nazis are bad, right? But here's what Donald Trump did. When people were, you know, condemning and saying, hey, Mr. President, what are you going to do about this? There's Nazis and Ku Klux Klan walking around like they own the place. His response was, there's good people on both sides. And here is why that's problematic. Homie could have easily said, hey, sure, I'm the Republican president and I'm a conservative, but I am not that. I am not okay with Ku Klux Klan walking around, and I am not okay with Nazis walking around. Don't pretend for a second that I represent you, right? But what did he do? There's good people on both sides. So now what does that communicate to people? It communicates that you're okay with it. Just recently, when asked about whether or not Donald Trump agreed with the verdict in the Breonna Taylor case, his response was, hey guys, other than Abraham Lincoln, nobody has been better to the black community than me. Two things. One, that doesn't answer the question. And then number two, you are communicating that you don't seem to really care, because this isn't a political thing. This is between right and wrong. And so here's the thing. The bare minimum in that situation that could have been done is for our president to not even release an official statement, right? Because that's not the bare minimum. The bare minimum would have been for him to tweet and say, hey, yeah, I'm the Republican president, but I am not that. Y'all Nazis need to go home. And all we're asking for is to begin at the bare minimum. Now here's the irony. I think that Black Lives Matter, as an organizing body, I think that the same could be said about them. And what I mean by that is, in the last few weeks, there have been 4 officers shot. 2 of them most recently directly related to what's going on with Breonna Taylor. And the other 2 being in California a few weeks ago now, I believe, where it was completely unprovoked. Now, I need to make one thing very clear. I support Black Lives Matter. I really do not see a biblical argument that can say Black lives don't matter. And yeah, of course, the Bible teaches that all lives matter. Jesus died for every single one of us. But also the Bible teaches that when people are marginalized and oppressed, that we as Christians need to be especially vigilant to make sure that they are taken care of and that they are protected. But sure, if we want to speak about the organization, absolutely no organization on this planet is perfect. The bare minimum in some of those situations, the shootings at least, would have been for Black Lives Matter to say, hey, we are Black Lives Matter, but we are not that. That would have been the bare minimum. Because then, just like with Donald Trump, what is communicated then is that you are okay with that. You're okay with what happened. And so again, I say as a supporter and a believer in Black Lives Matter, is that you may be communicating a false message to people who would otherwise support you. I hope what I'm saying is making sense. But because I'm going to be a pastor, I'll try to put what I'm saying into like a pastoral lens. If I have a church and I tell everybody in the community to say, hey, you should come to my church. We are a loving, accepting, Bible-believing church, and you are going to be safe here. If I go around town saying that to a bunch of people, and the people decide, well, hey, let me try this whole church thing again, and I want to come to church. But when they come to church, they are greeted by some crazy dude who is just some loudmouth, like beat you over the head with the Bible, condemning, judging, just vile human being. If that's the person they meet, they may come 1 or 2 times before they start to say, hey, pastor, I thought you said this church was accepting and loving and Bible believing. And then while they are telling me about this crazy guy, I pretend like it doesn't happen. And I continue to let this man, week after week, hurt people. At some point, I can't say that my church is loving and accepting and Bible believing because I am allowing this crazy person to hurt other people. And by standing by and watching him do this and not taking action, I am communicating that I think what crazy dude is doing is okay. That's what was communicated when Donald Trump refused to say that Nazis were bad. The bare minimum for me to do in that situation would be to at least issue a statement and say, hey, we do not agree with the actions of crazy dude. Better yet, I need to go and start some sort of disciplinary process, and ultimately that could look like telling that person, crazy dude, you're no longer allowed to come here. And so yeah, in my humble opinion, I think that would help. And as I was talking to one of my bosses last night, he reminded me of one simple truth, right? And that even if, say, Black Lives Matter were to say, hey, just because we're Black Lives Matter doesn't mean we are associated with that. There will always be someone, somewhere, some racist who will find a reason not to support, right? There's always going to be a reason. But in my opinion, like I said, a very humble opinion, the humble opinion of someone who is a believer and a supporter of Black Lives Matter, I think that could be a good step towards the right direction. Because, honestly, Black Lives Matter has done a lot. And I believe, especially now, after this verdict, or lack thereof, we need Black Lives Matter. We need you. And I think it proves that there is still a lot of work to be done. But yeah, as I was talking to my boss, like I said last night, he reminded me of something else. Something that actually a professor of mine taught on this summer. And it answers the question that I guess I'm trying to get to. Whose fault is all of this? Is it Donald Trump's fault? Is it Black Lives Matter's fault? My professor told me once something that I have not been able to get out of my mind. The reason that we're in as big of a mess as we are right now is because of the church. It's because of you and it's because of me. For years, decades, we've been silent when we should have been very vocal. You can't expect Donald Trump to fix this problem. You also can't expect Black Lives Matter to fix this problem. For decades, the church has been silent on this issue when we should have been on the front lines of it. If we look back at somebody like Martin Luther King Jr., who has kind of been like put up on this pedestal of the face of civil change in our time, dude was a pastor. That movement was born out of the church. Should we be expecting Black Lives Matter to make these statements? I don't know. I guess maybe we should, right? But I was challenged yesterday to think about something. How often can you get punched before you finally rise up and attack or defend yourself? Should we be condoning that violence? Absolutely 1000% not. But what is it that keeps people peaceful? It's their worldview. A worldview that could be taught through the Bible, a worldview that could be taught through the church, a worldview that is grounded in love. This is all our fault. Let me put it like this. Fellas, if your girlfriend, your wife, wants you to buy her flowers, tell her that you love her, spend quality time, and you keep telling her no, 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 what's she gonna do when she finds a guy who wants to do all of that for her? You're done! Ladies, what if your boyfriend, your husband, wants respect and to be loved and to be cherished and appreciated, and you don't do those things? What's gonna happen when he finds a girl who does all those things for him? You're done! And so let me break it down like this. Church, for decades, there have been people, members, the world has been asking for equality, for brotherhood, and for love, and for defense. What's gonna happen when year after year after year after year they ask for these things and we keep saying we're not gonna get involved? And then what happens when there's this shiny new organization that says they're gonna do all of that for you? Everything you've been asking, we got that for you. But here's the kicker, they're not Christian and they don't care about how they get to the end. Spoiler alert, they're gonna go to that organization. If you're a Christian like me who sits at home and I watch these videos and I've been to some protests and I'm wondering why the heck can we not come together, it's because it's our fault, and that hurts to say, but it's our fault. For years, for decades, we've been entering into complacency and saying, that's not for me. And now that we're getting into the conversation, we are either trying to copy what the world is doing, or it's just not effective communication. It's very accusatory. Should Donald Trump be doing more? Yeah, absolutely. Should Black Lives Matter be doing better? Sure, yeah. Church, should we be doing better? 1,000%. I'm gonna leave you with this. Justice is not political, it's biblical. No one's doing it right at this very moment. Not the presidency, not Black Lives Matter, not the church. But we should be, because we have the manual, we have the Bible, we have a connection. So let's make some changes and try to do this thing right into the next year. Let's be the change that we want to see. See you guys.